Hi, and welcome to the And One Podcast. I am your host, Alex West, and today I'm joined by Celtics outsider Andrew Johnson, who's going to talk to us a little bit about NBA prop gambling. We're going to talk about some over-unders, going to talk about some win totals, and going to talk about some props that we totally just made up. We also talk about the Carmelo Anthony trade and Dwayne Wade signing with the Cavaliers, which happens mid-podcast. Andrew gets to break some news. He gets to drop a Woj bomb during the course of the podcast, so that's fun. Stay tuned for that. It's a good podcast. I highly recommend it. And Brent, take us away. I want to welcome my guest Andrew Johnson into the show, the Celtics outsider. He did not get an invite to Media Day. Unfortunately, that's the price of being the outsider. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm doing great, feeling real respected as my position as the outsider. It's great out here, and I'm hyped to talk some basketball.
All right, we're going to do that today. First, we're going to talk about the Carmelo Anthony trade. We're going to talk about Dwayne Wade and his position right now as a free agent, sort of leveraging offers. And then we're going to talk about some NBA gambling. So that's the podcast for today. Let's jump right into it. Carmelo Anthony obviously traded over the weekend. The landscape of the Western Conference has changed once again. What were your initial reactions to the Melo trade?
Confusion, shock, some excitement. It's kind of just a big mishmash of feelings over here. So those are my initial reactions, yes.
Okay. Obviously, Oklahoma City not giving up a lot to get Carmelo Anthony, paying a very good price, trading Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott and 2019 second-round pick, I can't remember. But not a high price to play for a guy who can contribute a lot of value if you get Carmelo Anthony, and it all works out. I think one of the things that is really great about it is that low price is attached to it, so it's sort of a low-risk prospect in that you didn't pay a lot for it, but the risk in losing Paul George and Russell Westbrook is a very, very high price to pay if this three ball hogs situation does not work out.
Yeah, I think it's very appropriate that we're leading on this being the gambling episode, because this is a huge gamble. They're gambling that Olympic Melo is alive and well and living in crappy Knicks Melo somewhere. If they can get that, I think they're going to be very happy with their trade. If they can't, I think you're looking at a completely rebuilding Thunder team next year, like kind of the Knicks are now.
Yeah, Olympic Melo, interesting that you bring that up. Olympic Melo is this sort of El Dorado of NBA players that we've never seen in the league. We know that it exists because every 4 years, Olympic Melo rides into town and plays the best stretch four you've ever seen in your life. But most of the time, they don't have Olympic Melo, and you have Knicks Melo, which is a little bit more of a malcontent, a little bit more moody, and a little bit more of a black hole offensively. Changing scenery, you think that's going to be enough to bring Olympic Melo to the limelight?
Well, if anything that's going to do it. His reputation is on the line in a new town. Like, everyone, I don't think anyone truly expects this, besides maybe, like actual NBA players. They can maybe dream on Olympic Melo coming. I don't think the voting fan base in general expects this to go well. And so yeah, I think Melo's going to be motivated. If he's got it left in him, we're going to see it next year. And I hope he does, because that's one of my favorite basketball players, Olympic Melo.
Oh, yeah. Olympic Melo is underrated, one of the best players in the generation, but he only shows up for 2 weeks every 4 years. He's like the worst version of Santa Claus.
He is. He's like Sinterklaas or whatever that. Krampus. He's Krampus.
He's Krampus. Yeah. That's exactly what Melo is. But like, I don't know. I just have not been. I know a lot of people are very excited about this, and I understand why. And I know that a lot of analytics people are not as excited about this, and I understand why. And so my opinion is sort of like yours in that, like, let's wait and see, but I'm not hopeful. I think that anytime you have three players who require the ball to be quality offensive players, and then Carmelo Anthony not a good defensive player, you're
at all.
gonna be in these situations where there's not enough basketball to go around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're really relying on, because if all three of those guys from last year show up this year, it's not going to work. You're relying on things we haven't seen from any of them in the NBA. So we'll see.
And Billy Donovan to be the coach that they need him to be to make that unit work together.
He's got to dial it back to those Florida years. That's really where he's at.
I guess so. I mean, Al Horford, Joakim Noah aren't walking through that door, though. You know, I mean, to use an old Rick Pitino quote, with it, Larry Bird's not walking through that door. Al Horford's not walking through that door.
Colby Brewer's not walking through that door, ladies and gentlemen.
They had one kid that could shoot, not Brewer, but they had one more. I can't remember. Boy, it's been. I can't believe that's been 10 years ago.
We could have a whole podcast about that, to be honest.
On back-to-back Florida titles.
Yeah,
I can't believe it's been that long ago. Now that I think about it, jeez.
Mm-hmm.
The other news, sort of tied in a little bit of a way, is that Dwayne Wade is a free agent, obviously reaching a buyout with the Chicago Bulls. He's taken some time, sort of entertaining offers, but I'll just straight up ask you, where do you think he's going to end up?
I think if they want him, I think he ends up with the Spurs. I'm not convinced they want him. I guess if they do, maybe they're thinking he's going to be a little bit of a Manu Ginobili effect on their team.
Uh-huh.
I could see that him filling that role, but that's I don't know, man. I think the Spurs, if they want him, are where he'll end up. Otherwise, like Cleveland.
Okay.
Does Cleveland even want him though? I don't think so.
He says he wants to start. Cleveland said yesterday in their presser that he would start if he came. That makes a very, very, very terrible defensive lineup for Cleveland.
Yeah.
In such a way that they don't have Kyrie Irving anymore. They're not going to have Isaiah Thomas until it looks like January or February. They're not going to be a particularly accomplished offensive team unless Kevin Love becomes Minnesota Kevin Love, and which is entirely possible. But adding Dwayne Wade to that team does not do anything for me. I mean, I don't know. Okay, let me step back from it and say I'm not sure that adding Dwayne Wade to any team does a lot for me in the year 2017.
Exactly.
But for Cleveland is like a 2009 All-Star team right now. Derrick Rose, Kendrick Perkins, LeBron James.
Almost.
Yeah, I don't know. I am of the opinion that he's going to end up in. He's going to try to end up in Oklahoma City, even though not all of the Banana Boat boys are together. I feel like that's a situation where he can sort of make an impact and like be minimized in such a way that there's enough of a sporting cast that he can just do playoff Dwayne Wade once every couple of weeks.
Yeah, if Dwayne wants to pivot into the Manu role, might as well throw another 2009 All-Star on the Thunder team. Like, that would be interesting. Wade off the bench. Wade starting doesn't excite me nearly as much these days.
No, but it's interesting that you say Manu, player who has been so good for so long, playing as a sixth man. Obviously had some really great years early on and 10 or 12 years ago, but a player that has just remained effective. And Pop uses him sort of as a scalpel against second units, and he can play in crunch time, and he's a good shooter off the ball, and he can create so much on the ball. I'm not sure that there's an A to A comparison with Dwayne Wade in terms of skill set, but it is interesting to think that possibly that could be the role where he is the most effective.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the playmaking of Manu or even Manu's otherworldly basketball sense. I mean, who has it? But
not many.
If he can be that microwave oven off the bench, Dwayne Wade excites me there. As a starting lineup, I think Tyronn Lue is probably the only coach in the NBA who would start him.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe that's what's going to happen. I'll be interested to see how this shakes out. Like, I imagine that this situation's done by the end of the week, don't you? I mean, with training camp coming up.
I think so.
I can't believe the Bulls bought him out, but that's a whole other story about about the incompetence of the Bulls management system of like, why not just keep him?
At this point, literally, what are you gaining? Like, an unhappy Dwayne Wade, I mean, he's probably going to be. It's not like that's really any different than what you have had.
Yeah, I would have just held on to him and then sort of tried to make a play a little bit later in the season when maybe somebody wanted him. But the buyout,
Get a second pick.
the buyout this early, I don't get it.
No, it's insane.
All right, let's talk about gambling. NBA gambling, obviously not as important as NFL gambling, which I think is like 48% of the GDP of America, unless it.
Oh yes, I'd go on the over on that one.
You think it's higher than the 48% of the GDP of America? There's something like $40 quintillion spent every year. These stats are all made up. Totally made up. Not even going to stand by them.
And also 100% accurate.
So let's do a little bit of talk about over-unders. Let's talk about a couple of prop bets. And a couple of ones that really interest me in terms of prop betting. But let's start with who is going to win the MVP this year. Right now, according to a couple of websites, it looks like Kawhi Leonard is high in finishing. It looks like the top three are Kawhi, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and then sort of the field afterwards. How do you feel about a bet of Kawhi Leonard as the MVP?
As a popcorn shark, I'm all in. I think Kawhi is. If you're betting now, I think Kawhi is the guy you want to put your money on. He probably had the best season in the NBA last year. He was undone by, I guess James Harden too, but I think he was undone by the allure of the triple-double, and I don't think if anyone averages a triple-double again, I don't think it's going to be nearly as enticing for voters.
Yeah, it was kind of the mystique thing. Kawhi had the best two-way season, to me, undisputed. Like, offense, we're in that point of the league where offense matters so much, and the MVP race was that writ large, I guess, of how much of an importance we place on offense in the modern NBA, because the competition was Russell Westbrook's triple-double and then James Harden's phenomenal 11 assist, 28-point a games. And then Kawhi seemed like he was such a distant third.
I think, he probably was for voters, but, in terms of what I want for my MVPs, in terms of, I think, what you probably want from your MVP.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Kawhi was my guy, and I would totally. I think the smart money is on him this year.
Yeah, they didn't add a lot in terms of pieces. You know they're going to be a quality team as Greg Popovich is still around. The Spurs have such a pedigree as a culture, as a winning culture. So you know they're going to hover around that. I did my picks today on wins, and I have them in like 59. I mean, barring some Kawhi Leonard injury, I see they probably don't quite hit 60 because the West is so good now. But I can't imagine them dropping below 54.
No, I can't either. I think that's a good range for them.
So if that's the case, Kawhi would be a pretty solid bet to win the MVP. But I think I would probably give money to the number 2 guy in LeBron. And the reason is twofold. I think LeBron's going to win the MVP this year because I think he's going to, have something to prove with Kyrie Irving no longer being in town, and B, is going to have to carry a little bit more of the weight with Isaiah Thomas being out for the first probably 40 to 50 games of the season. So I feel like we might be seeing what possibly could be our last LeBron MVP season.
I could definitely. It doesn't take much imagination at all to see that. And LeBron. Well, the reason I went with Kawhi over LeBron is because I still feel like we're going to see the LeBron who's kind of conserving for the playoffs. But if you, like you said, if you think he's got something to prove, then we could see playoff LeBron in the first half of the season. And if we see that, then I think you're right. This might be the last hurrah, the ride off into the sunset for MVP LeBron.
I think it'll be like spikes for LeBron. Like last season, he was sort of on cruise control. Spent the whole regular season. They ended up in the low 50s for wins because of it. I think you'll see more spikes like the Christmas Day game from last season, where LeBron became the best player in the game just for a very short stint. And then sort of went back on cruise control. I think there'll be more games on the schedule with big red circles around him for LeBron, for him to bring his A game in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics, just put it right there. He's going to want to put Kyrie in the ground every time he sees him.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think Oklahoma City probably has garnered that kind of respect. I think Houston, obviously Golden State. Like there are just so many teams that have improved themselves in such a way that I think LeBron will be looking to assert his dominance in the regular season.
Yeah.
And then he's probably going to take some Tuesdays when they play Indiana off.
Yeah. And just find the nearest banana boat and sip on some daiquiris.
Exactly, and just like cruise on that one. Do you have a dark horse MVP candidate?
Well, yeah, I do. Dark horse MVP would be Kyrie for me, actually.
Okay. Not just Celtics homerism speaking there?
There's a little bit of outsider tint, as always, but I think Kyrie, being the guy who just asked off of a team that basically has already punched its ticket to the finals, he's got, in my mind, more to prove than I think anyone in the NBA this season. And I'm really excited to see where it's going to happen from an outsider perspective. And also from an NBA fan perspective, I think of the people not being talked about, I think Kyrie's got the shot to come at the crown, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good opinion because when I stop and think about this, not as a Celtics fan, as an NBA fan, Kyrie Irving has spent his years playing under David Blatt, under Mike Woodson, Mike Brown, not Mike Woodson. Mike Brown, David Blatt, Tyronn Lue. That's not a prolific list of NBA coaches.
A murderer's row of mediocrity.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Tyronn Lue. He's a player's coach. The players seem to like him, but his strategy leaves a lot to be desired. And Brad Stevens is such a good coach. He runs such effective sets. He knows how to get people in position to maximize what they can do. And I think when you have a guy who has as many offensive gifts as Kyrie Irving does, unlocking that requires a guy like Brad Stevens. And that's why I tend to agree with you that I think he'll finish in the top three. I mean, I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself because I know one day in the future we're going to do Y'all All See as an entire episode where we just assert crazy things like Kyrie Irving's going to be in the top three of the MVP. But I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility to see a 30-point season from Kyrie Irving wherein he's incredibly efficient and effective in a Brad Stevens system.
Yeah, Brad Stevens is gonna focus the prolific talents of Kyrie, and I think top three isn't even worthy of y'all gonna see. To be honest, I don't think you got to dream that much to see a top three season.
Yeah. So I guess that probably I would agree with you on an outsider pick. I could definitely see Westbrook still being in the conversation. I think adding Paul George and adding Carmelo will probably lessen his ability to win the MVP just because he won't have to be so 41.7 PER guy.
Right.
And I think probably the same is true of James Harden, that adding Chris Paul, while they'll be a better playoff team, will make them less. That'll make James Harden less equipped to win the MVP. So I don't know. I mean, I could probably see maybe Anthony Davis jumping in the conversation if they have a good year.
That's a good pick. Yeah.
He's been one of the most impressive players in the league, caught on this terrible roster in New Orleans. I could see Kyrie Irving. I could see John Wall if they can make an impressive push in the Eastern Conference and maybe battle for like the 2 seed. I could see John Wall getting in the conversation.
Definitely, yeah.
But those are dark horses. I mean, obviously Kawhi, LeBron, Durant make the most sense, and that's probably pretty good. I mean, it sounds like Vegas probably knows their stuff.
Yes, they do. The Popcorn Shark agrees with that.
All right. Let's move on to Rookie of the Year. The top 3 of the Rookie of the Year: Lonzo Ball, number 1; Ben Simmons, number 2; Dennis Smith, number 3. Who would you take out of that, or would you take the field?
I'm gonna just assume health for this one.
Yeah.
And I think Ben Simmons, you always want to bet on the guy who's older, having like a second rookie season. I think Blake's second rookie season was
right.
It was good.
And he won the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that we're gonna have a situation like that. I think Lonzo is gonna put up an exceedingly entertaining season, And I think he's going to give Ben a run for his money. And, I mean, Dennis Smith isn't that far behind either. That guy showed a lot in Summer League.
It's really tight at the top. Lonzo Ball's plus 255, Ben Simmons is plus 275, and Dennis Smith's plus 350. So the top three, and then it drops off to plus 950 for Markelle Fultz at number 4. So I think there's a pretty tight top of the field. I think I'd probably take Dennis Smith just because of pure numbers. That they're really gonna. I think that Dallas is probably out of the playoff hunt, barring exceptional 2010 Dirk Nowitzki season, which I don't think is in the tank anymore. I think they're probably in that like 39, 38 win range, maybe even lower. But I think that allows you to take the top off Dennis Smith and just let him run at full speed, which is going to be pretty impressive statistically.
Yeah. I think, as you said, Dennis Smith is going to have the breathing room and this head ceiling space to make all those stats that the voters love. Like he's going to be, you could see Baby Westbrook next season out of Dennis Smith.
Yeah, hyper athletic guy who's going to be on SportsCenter nightly doing something, and a guy that's going to garner a lot of fan support because. A lot of times these awards have turned into sort of the hype machine. I mean, Brogdon last year was more of a result of there not being any good rookies, but all-star voting, all-NBA, all of these things, and the players have obviously sat up and taken notice of this, have become so contingent on YouTube hits and highlights and all these things that the sort of solid play doesn't really get you there anymore. Like Mike Conley not being an all-star. That's kind of the perfect example of.
Yeah, that is.
Like Mike Conley's a great player. He's not an all-star because people just don't sit up and notice what Mike Conley brings to the game because A, they don't see Memphis a lot, and B, he's not making a ton of highlight reel plays. He just plays very solid. And I think that's probably why Dennis Smith would be at plus 350. Like I'll definitely bite on a plus 350 on Dennis Smith to be the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, Dennis Smith fits the whatever the hype machine. His nickname might as well be SportsCenter. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Do you have a dark horse pick? I don't know which one of us is going to say it, but do you have a dark horse pick of Rookie of the Year?
I want to say it. I just don't think Jason Tatum's going to have the opportunities, but I think. On a different team, if he was on the Celtics team from like 3 or 4 years ago, I think Jason Tatum would have a legitimate chance on talent alone to be the Rookie of the Year.
I actually wasn't talking about Jason Tatum. I was going to talk about your new hometown favorite guy. I thought you were going to go with me on that one. No, I agree with you on Tatum. You see him in that like 16 to 20 minute window where he plays really well, but there's no way you're winning Rookie of the Year at 16 to 20 minutes a game. No, actually, who I was going to say, and this person is the number 6 favorite to win Rookie of the Year, De'Aaron Fox out of Kentucky. Your hometown Sacramento Kings.
Hometown Sac Kings, yeah. No, I think he, as an actual legitimate dark horse, I think that's a brilliant pick. He's going to have the opportunity. He's going to run this team. And if you see the De'Aaron Fox that showed versus Lonzo Ball in the NCAAs last year, like, this is a guy you don't want to be sleeping on.
Yeah, he is a guy, and I wrote an article about this last week for the 94 Feet Report. Just get my plugs in, you know how I do. But I wrote an article about the Kings. You had said some to me some weeks back, like sort of sitting up and taking notice when you did move out there. You're like, I think the Kings have had a great offseason. And the more I thought about it, the more it was really true. And De'Aaron Fox has really pushed that narrative for me that I love De'Aaron Fox. Like the kid, the perfect game, the UCLA game in the tournament, he just ate up Lonzo Ball. And he prides himself on being that player that comes to play every night and is ready to attack the other team's best player. And that's a pretty fun thing for a franchise that's been kind of downtrodden in the past few years.
It's going to be exciting out here, that's for sure. And the fact that we're Lonzo Ball, it's really a three-sided coin flip between those guys in terms of odds. But like the fact that De'Aaron Fox made him look that bad. A guy we're talking about for Rookie of the Year is like, you really don't want to be sleeping on it. This is a guy who's got it all, and he's got the excitement, and he has the attitude. Like, I like that. I like that as a dark horse.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like that that winner's mentality, and I think it's it's going to be a big help for him. And I think he's a guy that people want to see him succeed. And obviously, the city of Sacramento Kings fans, but I think like everybody wants to see this guy succeed because of the commitment he had in the NCAA tournament, like all the stuff that he did. He just made so many fans.
Oh. We got breaking news here. It appears that Dwayne Wade plans to sign with the Cavaliers.
So there you go. Right in the middle of a podcast. Well, thanks for ruining a podcast, Dwayne Wade. Hey, can I go back and say that I thought Dwayne Wade was going to sign with the Cavaliers the whole time?
Yeah, we'll fix that in post. Dwayne Wade obviously was meant to be a Cavalier. He's going to start. He's going to put up 97 points a game, and it's great, and we're real smart.
God, the league never sleeps. Like, you can't even record a podcast. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about one of my favorite categories, and then we'll do a couple over-unders, and then we'll do a couple prop bets, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
My favorite prop bet of every year is who's going to be the first coach fired. And I think that there are quite a few candidates this year. The field not as easy as it sometimes is. Sometimes it's pretty easy to zero in. Like the NFL this year, like Chuck Pagano looked pretty prime to be the first coach fired.
That's a ripe fire, for sure.
But I think there are so many bad teams that it's hard to say who's going to get fired. But who would be your leader into the turn so far?
I was looking at the list, and there are so many juicy, ripe guys you just want to pluck and throw on the streets. But I ended up zeroing in on Alvin Gentry. He was, to me, he's at the perfect crossroads of a talented team that could have expectations and that needs to win, really, because they've got to show it off to Anthony Davis. They've got to convince him to stay. So they have to. They're. I think Gentry, for those reasons, is the most likely. The other teams that I would think probably would be more likely, they all traded their best players and their expectations are lower than they were like a couple months ago.
Yeah, they haven't updated this. Jeff Hornacek was the leader. In this, he was at 8-1 to be the first coach fired. But I kind of think that, like, you hit the nail on the head there. Trading Carmelo Anthony sort of backs off any expectation of Jeff Hornacek, and so it sort of lessens the hot seat, the heat on the hot seat for him.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Fred Hoiberg. Like, I don't think anybody's expecting a lot out of Chicago. He was number 3, so that's interesting. Maybe he still is. Maybe he's just not a good NBA coach. I guess we'll find that out too.
Yeah. I think also that if all this stuff had happened earlier in the offseason and those teams had time to try to find a coach, like I think Hornacek, Hoiberg, they're probably going to get fired during the offseason.
Yeah, I would throw Nate McMillan and possibly Earl Watson in on that list as well. Nate McMillan in Indiana, yeah. Earl Watson in Phoenix. That's probably like the list of like the coaching carousel that just turns itself over every year.
Mm-hmm. Within a year, those guys I think will all be gone.
Yeah, I would say at least 2 of them, if not 3, maybe all 4. I have 2 sort of dark horses on this one, and one of them is not going to play well with another friend of ours, Mate, another friend of the podcast. But I think the seat may be a little bit hot for Doc Rivers in L.A.
Yep, I think. With Jerry being there, his time is very much being marked.
Yeah, they have a very good team. They have a team that's going to be interesting, and they have a team that has a lot of question marks. But they on the surface, a lot of talent. Adding Gallinari, letting Blake run more of the point Blake, and so I think if things start to go poorly for them, I think Doc Rivers' name could come up in some tough conversations for Steve Ballmer, for Jerry West, for the entire Clippers front office.
I think that's a great dark horse. My only other candidate that I thought should be fired is someone who's not going to be fired, and it's Tyronn Lue.
Ooh.
I think he should have been fired a long time ago. I'm not a Tyronn Lue guy.
No, me either. I think he's not a very good coach.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, LeBron's the coach of that team, so Tyronn. As long as Tyronn doesn't piss off LeBron, he'll be fine. But I think in terms of talent, like he should have been fired a while ago.
I 100% think he will be relieved of duty if LeBron does end up walking. He's not a player. Yeah. He's not a coach that I would want to go into a rebuilding effort with.
No. He's the guy you want to. He's the player's coach. You want him there to make sure everything's smooth and no one's trying to kill each other or sleep with someone's mom, Delonte. But
yeah, boy, he. That's why they needed him that season, whatever season that was, like 2009 or whatever.
That would have been a great coach.
Was that the last season LeBron was in Cleveland, like the first time? I think it was. I think it was the 2009 when the Celtics knocked him out.
Yep. Delonte shoot him out.
Before Delonte was just like walking around the streets like a crazy person.
Yeah, poor guy.
All right.
I feel bad.
I think pretty safe. I think that's a pretty safe number one, though. I think that Alvin Gentry, that's a good choice. Like, they're going to have a lot of hard questions. They're going to have a lot of things that they have to address. And if they don't get addressed rather quickly, I think Alvin Gentry might be cleaning out his office. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about some quick over-unders. Let's just go through the easy ones. Warriors 67.5.
This is one of the most talented rosters relative to the NBA in NBA history. Mm-hmm. That being said, winning that many games is hard regardless of who you are. And so I would actually take the under there.
Interesting. I think adding Omri Casper and Nick Young, two players who help stretch the defenses even more than they have been. I think they're probably a shoe-in for 70. And I know just mark the tape on that one because I know I'm going to regret saying that. That's going to be what they play on the Lita Sports Center is me going 70. Yeah. But I think that probably, like you said, that the roster's so talented on a night-to-night basis that Durant can go off, that Steph can go off, that Draymond can have a triple-double, that Clay can score 30 and a quarter. I feel like that they win 7 out of every 8 games through the course of the season.
Honestly, if I would ever pick a team to have an easy over on that, it'd be this Warriors team. The only reason I don't is, like I said, like it's hard to be healthy. It's hard to play well. Sometimes things happen. It's not a basketball reason. It's more just a law of averages.
Yeah, that regression to the mean of saying like somebody's probably going to get hurt or somebody's going to take some significant time off or, whatever. I get it. I just feel like maybe that there's a lot going in their favor this season because they might be better than they were last year.
No, I think you would be crazy to think there wouldn't be. Another year of Durant, those guys are tough. They're going to be a tough out.
Okay, San Antonio 55.5.
I'm going to say over on that. I was thinking maybe Wade would go there, but now that we know where Wade is, I'm still comfortable with them being over.
Yeah, 55 is just like that's their number. They've gotten it for every season for the past 400 seasons, and they'll do it for the next 400 seasons. They'll win 50 games. I feel like
until they die.
55 is like a safe number. I would have them right on it. I would probably take the under because I think 54 or 55 is the magic number, but I definitely think that line is right where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's a very unfortunately good line.
I haven't seen this one updated in the wake of the Carmelo Anthony trade, so I feel like this is probably going to be an easy one, but maybe not. I don't know. Oklahoma City, 48.5.
You want to say over. There's a chance that the fact that adding Carmelo is actually going to make them worse if we get NBA Carmelo, not Olympics Melo, and Billy Donovan. I mean, it doesn't take much imagination to see this imploding. That being said, it does still take imagination, so I'm going over.
All right, three more quick ones. Boston 55.5.
I'm going to put them under, actually.
Really? I would go the opposite. I'd go over. I think the Eastern Conference is just terrible, so I think they're probably
is true. I didn't think about that.
I think they're probably scraping 59 this year if everything works out. Barring this is always barring injury.
Yeah.
Cleveland 53.5.
53 for Cleveland. We're gonna go over.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. Houston 55.5.
Houston 55. Oof, this is tough because I like that combo of Chris Paul and Harden, but you could see we're gonna go over. We're gonna believe.
All right, Minnesota 48.5.
Minnesota. I'm going under there.
Okay, I am with you. I have voiced my displeasure with their roster, the way it's made up. I think they're going to struggle
It's a
early.
weird roster.
All right, last one. Milwaukee 47.5.
Ooh, can the Greek Freak do it? No. I'm going under. I think the West is just too good.
I think that they'll probably hit right around there. I think I did mine today. I have them at 50. Oh, I apparently talked myself into Milwaukee a lot. It'll be interesting. I think that, again, that's one of those numbers that's right where it needs to be. That 47.5. They'll probably hit 48. I don't know who wrote 50 in my handwriting on this, but the more I think about it, the more that's a weird number. All right, a couple of prop bets, and then we're gonna get out of here. This is one is interesting. This is not a prop bet that I've seen anywhere. This is just sort of a prop bet that I'm putting out there for you. Philadelphia gets 150 plus from Simmons, Embiid, and Fultz. That would be 50 games each from Simmons, Embiid, and Fultz. Would you take the over or the under?
I like this prop bet, and I think in order to get over, to get under that, one of them you got to rely on one of them being injured for a very long stretch of period of time.
Okay.
So I'm going to say yes. I think one of them will, or maybe all of them get injured minimally. I think 50 games each is a little bit optimistic.
I don't think you're getting 50. I don't think you're getting much more than 50 from Embiid anyway.
Yeah, that's the guy who I think is going to get injured.
I think healthy Embiid gives you 60.
Yeah.
That if he plays optimally all year long, they're probably going to be very conservative with his minutes and his games, particularly in back-to-backs and in road trips and stuff. I think 60 is barring anything, he'll play 60 if he doesn't have any health risks this year.
Yep.
And I think so. He probably hits low. I'll take the over on this one. I think Simmons' injury was kind of freaky, and so I think he'll probably play in the 70s, like mid 70s and up. I think I got him in about 73, and so that really means you only got to get 80 games out of Embiid and Fultz. Which
that's not going to be hard.
Right. So, if you do get say you get 40 out of Embiid, that means all you got to get is 40 out of Fultz. And I think Fultz's injury last year was kind of fluky as well.
Yeah, you really got to rely on one of them being injured for a period of time to go under there.
Yeah, and I think Embiid will miss a requisite 30 games, but I don't think they'll get under that 150 game mark. All right, another prop bet. I haven't seen any odds on this one. I just like to make these prop bets up. DeMarcus Cousins will finish the season on the New Orleans Pelicans. I would give that one. Let's see. I'll give it plus 110 that he will. So I'm saying that probably he won't. Minus 130 that he won't.
Yeah, I think he's more likely. If assuming the Pelicans are a moderately well-run organization, I think he's more likely to be traded than Anthony Davis.
You think one of them will be traded? There's no way that both of them finish the season as a Pelican?
I think the way I'm imagining it going is it's not going to work out, and they're going to feel pressure to move one of them, and I think it's going to be Cousins. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you're taking the Cousins is gone on the on the over? Is that the over? I don't know. We're taking the over on Cousins leaving.
Yeah, sure. We'll take the over on Cousins.
All right, he's taking the over on Cousins. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think moving Anthony Davis is probably a last gasp effort. Anything that you can do, if you fire Alvin Gentry, if you trade DeMarcus Cousins, whatever it takes to create an organization where Anthony Davis wants to stay, that's the environment you want to create.
That's your modus operandi.
Yeah,
for sure.
Particularly he has 3 years left on his deal. You have to do everything you can to keep him there, because even though he's been a little bit injury prone, even though he hasn't played his best basketball, New Orleans has not done the things they needed to do to put the talent around him.
Yep. that's their franchise. And if you're losing Anthony Davis, despite all the smoke around, are we going to trade Davis to the Celtics? I mean, I'd love it to happen, but I just don't see anyone with a brain doing it.
No. The exception being like if you could get a hold of a Luka Doncic, or if you could turn him into 2 high picks. I mean, but even then, it's like we've talked about this so many times. Trading the known quantity for the unknown quantity is just so hard to do.
Anthony Davis is exactly it's the absolute best case scenario, I guess, besides Michael Jordan or LeBron, that you're going to get out of the NBA draft. It's a fool's errand to trade him or even consider it.
You could trade him and get the mystery box, and the mystery box could be Anthony Davis.
It could be.
I mean, I don't know. I don't get that. So yeah, I think that probably Cousins, if either of them is gone, if I had to put a bet on it, I would say Cousins is not there, Davis is there on the end of the season. To amend my own prop bet. Like, I guess I'm parlaying it. I'm going to say that Cousins does not finish the season in New Orleans and that Anthony Davis does. That's my parlay for that.
I'm with you there.
All right, last one. This one's touchy and a long way off, but we're getting ready to start the season, and it's going to be a season completely laced with this question. Like, no day is going to go by without this question being asked. But will LeBron be in Cleveland next year? And I think this is like a minus 250 no. Like, I think the odds, it's got to be high that he won't.
Yeah, there's really so many things have to happen. It's fun to dream. It's fun to think about it. But so many things have to happen to get him to leave. And I just don't see LeBron wanting to torpedo his stature yet again.
Interesting. I think he's going to leave, but you think he's not going to leave.
No, I think when push comes to shove, I think he's going to stay.
Ooh.
I mean, you can see it. It doesn't take much imagination to get him out there. But if LeBron leaves on the tail end of his career and he's not LeBron where he's going, that does more to damage his name and his franchise, the whole LeBron enterprise, than it does for him to stay and ride out. Because then I think he's going to sit down, and I mean, Cleveland could be incredibly bad. Cleveland could be, but I think he's going to stay.
It would be very interesting if he stayed with a new nucleus sort of developing around him, whatever that Brooklyn pick turns into. Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and then maybe Kevin Love or Tristan Thompson gets moved. But if they try to recreate the core around whoever the pick ends up being and let LeBron sort of sit back and play point forward, something that he has done tremendously well throughout his career, but sort of like that aging Magic Johnson thing, like how Magic became more where he played more forward and he pick and chose his spots and was still very effective. But yeah, that could definitely be interesting. My side of it is I probably think that there's a lot of non-basketball opportunity for LeBron to explore a larger market. Obviously, title's big important thing to LeBron, but he's been to so many NBA Finals. He's won 3 of them. He's got 3 NBA Finals MVPs. I'm not sure that chasing Jordan in terms of number is a very realistic proposition with the Warriors standing in the way. So I think that at some point, moving outside of the realm of basketball into movies or investing, we've seen how much Kevin Durant has made going to TechCrunch and all these Northern California investments a part of his brand. I think LeBron is sort of in that same sphere of like, there's money to be made outside of basketball.
That's true, and I think if you're thinking beyond basketball, I think that's how you talk yourself into LeBron leaving. Because, I mean, as he stated before, he hasn't been shy with this. I think his goal is to be the most lucrative basketball player ever. Like he
wants to be a billionaire.
His end goal is beyond basketball.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, and I think that the season will sort of be colored by that, which is unfortunate. But also it does carry so much intrigue in it that it will be an interesting topic to talk about. I'm sure a year from now, well, not even a year from now, but by June, we'll be so sick of talking about this, though. Oh, my God, yeah. That's like a negative 10,000. Like, I'm 100% bet the over on that we're going to be tired of talking about this, probably by Christmas, but definitely by June.
I got tired halfway through talking about it, to be honest.
All right. Well, appreciate you coming on the show and giving us your wise gambling shark tips as as you're known to do.
Yep. Thanks for having me yet again. Love the show, love the content, and I sure do love the Outlet Pass, my man.
All right, we're going to keep that up. If you haven't watched the Outlet Pass, I got to get a little plug in here before we go. Outlet Pass is the quick hits version of the And One podcast. It's just going to be me talking to a camera, talking about whatever's going on. I started the first episode talking about the Carmelo Anthony trade. Might do a little Dwayne Wade thing. I don't know. That happened during the show. That was unexpected. But it's going to
feel good to break news.
You did. You just broke news right in the middle of the podcast. But the Outlet Pass will be ongoing throughout the season. You'll be able to hear my opinion on all of the things NBA in a short form while still being able to hear it on long form here on the And One podcast. But anyway, Andrew, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being a part of the show. And I'm sure that we're going to talk to you soon.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready. Popcorn shark.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Yep.